Can't speak.
The guys that, you know,
Would
have
you
to serve in the military by no choice.
There's also this thing too, and I do this culturally here. Like, if you are Korean and you have only eaten Korean food and you've sort of been systematized into the canon of Korean food, like when you see something like gochujang or doenjang, your brain automatically goes to one thing, and sometimes you get stuck in there. And I don't know. Sometimes it takes like an outsider to look at an ingredient. And I do this like too. Like even myself, I have certain guardrails that I can't get out of. And I have white friends who are chefs, friends of mine, and they'll taste like jjajangmyeon and go, "Oh man, I could do this and this with it." And like even something that will shock me, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I never thought of that." Because we have cultural guardrails about what something should be.
But they're all just like,
And
I'm gonna turn this into a
I have
burger,
that
man.
much less so than someone who grew up in Korea.
Got it.
And so that's kind of, I don't know. Sometimes it's an advantage, sometimes it's a disadvantage. But
I think that's really evident when it's okay. So another, deeply Korean game show part of this is like you have your one-on-one opponent, and then you walk through this sort of hall of beautiful Korean refrigerators, and you choose one blindly because you don't know what's inside of it for your signature ingredient, right? And you get the aged. You open the door and there's just a bowl of aged kimchi in there. Like, what is your reaction when you see this ingredient?
So I thought it was, again, I thought it was just kimchi. I was like, yeah, it's cool, it's kimchi. And then they were like, oh no, it's mugenji, and I'm like, oh fuck, because I'll be honest with you, I've maybe had mugenji like 3 times in my whole life. You don't see that in America
because it stinks.
Hmm.
It smells so bad when it gets to that level.
So I had to quickly go and like, I went to like a store in fucking Korea and found some kimchi in it. But I'm also staying in a hotel room, so I have no idea what to
Are you staying with the other competitors?
No, because they all live there. So I stay in a hotel.
Again, more home advantage for these contestants.
I know. They can practice. They can do shit. They have restaurants.
So I turned it's pretty funny. I turned my hotel room into like a little staging kitchen. Like I bought all this because I was like, I'm sitting in my hotel doing nothing. So I bought like cutting boards and a little stovetop.
That's right. American ingenuity.
Something that so Dave always, I mean, we've made a lot of culinary TV. Dave has participated in a lot of the sort of competition television stuff, and the competition is all real in America. Obviously there's compliance officers that make sure that it's real, but there is, how do I say this, like there's a fakeness to a lot of it, especially when it comes to like the portrayal of how good that was or how the quality of the food was. You've seen it all now on both sides of the ocean here. Like, give us a sense of the sort of quality of cooking that you're seeing culinary stuff on this show.
No, I think in some ways Koreans are like, I don't know, more honest or more like they really follow the rules, and so I think a lot of it was authentically just brilliant cooking, and I think it says a lot to the level of cooking that's going on in Korea right now. Everything from the high end to the sort of mom pop stores. It's just amazing stuff. I'll tell you one little funny story. They didn't want you to take pictures while we were there in the studio, so they just put stickers over our cell phone cameras. But this is just goes to show how honest and Koreans are. So I'm sitting there and I turn to the guy next to me. I go, "You can just take your sticker, just take the sticker off and take a picture if you want to." And he looked at me with this look of absolute disgust. I just turned to him and go, "Why would you do that? They asked us not to. Like, why would you even think that?" And it just, and I felt like that little microcosmic story like was kind of the whole production and the whole set. Like everyone was like, "These are the rules. This is how we do it. We're gonna follow it." And again, thousands of people running this thing. And they made I don't know, it's interesting to see it now because obviously when you're in it, you don't see the production value.
Well, Ed, if
just
this
like-
was Squid Game and I was the guy controlling everything, I would shoot that guy dead.
Exactly. You take your sticker off the camera and you're done.
Yeah, no, it's like
Shot to the head.
this is entrepreneur. This is guy thinking outside the box. You.
Right.
I had this thought, Chang, though. Like, I mean, it makes me so, like you said in the beginning, like we watched Physical 100, and you're like, I think within the first 10 minutes you were texting just like, we have to make Culinary 100. Like, we have to do this. But there's like,
Little did they know when they were making Physical 100, they're like, we're making Cooking 100.
like they're already doing this. I mean, it's just, I mean, part of me is like, should we just go to Korea and make a show first? And then
Yeah.
just try to
Well, no, we can't because I can't speak Korean.
That's right.
And the minister's now, he's not going to work with me. Can I ask, when you're plating the dishes, and this has always been my gripe for food competition shows, it's also the reason why I just don't want to be a judge, because the honesty never comes out. When I say a dish is terrible, it always gets stitched together. That's a good dish. But as a judge, people may not understand. It's logistically almost impossible to eat a dish hot, like a hot dish hot. So what I always tell people, like, make cold dishes, because they have to set up the shot. It's not a seamless dish is done and then it goes. Usually that food is like dying. When they call dying at the window in a restaurant, it's like that means that food is not getting from the kitchen to the table. And I'm always like, this is not, maybe there's no way to do it. And I remember having a conversation to the one person that spoke English on the scene, being like the same thing. Could they fix this? And they're like, no, we have a lot of ideas to sort of address some of the shortcomings. Was the food able to get eaten hot? Was it hot, or is it
sometimes? Yeah. And I think, like I judge on Top Chef every now and then, and they always tell you, and you're sort of cognizant of the fact, like, don't judge. If you're having a soup or a risotto, don't judge it based on temperature. Just try and judge it
Just
based on
imagine what
temperature.
this tasted like 35 minutes
Yes,
ago,
exactly.
basically.
I think that's an impossible task.
Yeah.
It is an impossible
I did
task.
like in that first part of the show. I mean, it's funny that you brought that up, Chang, because I think there was like an interesting thing where it's like 40 people cooking at the same time, but it is like when you're ready to be judged, it's like, okay, the judges come over and taste your food at your station, which is an interesting. I had never really seen that, especially at that kind of a scale.
I love the Mosu chef just being. I knew the show was going to be different when, like, the Halmanis, the grandmas, were going, like, getting 86. I was like, oh shit, this is the show that we've been promised. Oh, hey grandma,
Kill the
you yeah, it's like, yeah, it tastes good, but it's not good. You're going home. It's so good.
There was one that was brutal. He was like, I don't know, the kid was so excited, and it was like, it's my birthday. and the judge is like, oh, happy birthday. You're going home.
Oh, that was it. The grandma, the Halmani was like, oh, it made him like a jjigae, like a stew. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't make any rice. You can't eat this without rice. You're going home. It's so good.
It's so brutal. It's so brutal.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Ed, what else are you up to back here stateside?
I'm actually getting ready to open a nonprofit restaurant in Washington, D.C. It's going to be called Shia. And one of the things that we're doing is that, well, actually the main reason for the restaurant is a research focus where we're trying to figure out practical solutions where restaurants can be more sustainable. And then we're going to publish papers so that any restaurant across the country can adopt what we're doing. Do you remember when that video came out of the turtle and the plastic straw, and every restaurant and bar started to ban plastic straws, and we all felt great about ourselves that we changed the world. And I'm like, I applaud anyone that gets rid of plastic from their bars, but like the amount of plastic that a kitchen goes through every single day is atrocious. And so we're trying to figure out a way, like we're going to do zero plastic, zero gas, and we're going to figure out how to reduce our waste by 50%. And I just think that's something that's neat. Like as restaurants keep getting bigger and more and everything, like we got to figure out a way to sort of curtail some of the plastic that we're throwing into the environment. So that's our project that
Huh.
we're launching.
So, in other words, it's a test ground restaurant.
Yeah, yeah. And what we do, what's slightly, and other restaurants are zero plastic, but we're do two things. We're going to record everything. We're going to cost analyze it. We're labor analyze it, and then we're going to publish a paper saying, if you decide to go this route, it's going to be more expensive. But exactly how much more expensive, we don't really know. But this way, now we'll have real data from a real restaurant, and we'll be able to tell you, hey, listen, is it an extra 4% of your annual revenue that you're going to have to put into this? If that makes you sleep better at night, are you willing to do it? Or like we thought of generation ago when organic carrots and organic vegetables came into this world, right? A lot of the gripe was, why would I pay double for a carrot? It doesn't make sense. But what they didn't realize was, well, no, if you go organic and you advertise it on the menu, will there be a set of people that are willing to pay higher prices to eat at your restaurant? And that turned out to be true. And I think, given everything that's equal, would you choose to eat at a restaurant that advertised zero plastic in this day and age versus, for all things being equal, would you pay a little bit extra to go to a restaurant that was zero plastic? And I think people would.
Well, I think it's extremely difficult to tackle this subject, something that needs to be done. Chris clearly has his own organization, not for profit, for carbon footprint. Um, and again, people may not understand how much plastic and how much waste in general. Even a restaurant that claims that they're sort of minimal, it's just sort of insane. It is. And it's a cost that gets subsidized and nobody really pays for that at all. But I also have to commend you because it just seems on paper impossible to do, and not that you can't do it, Ed. And I want to talk quickly about the not for profit and the people financially helping you. Um, I'm worried about the customers if they understand. And you are right. Some people are willing to pay more money, but at the end of the day, I just strongly feel that most people don't want to pay more money for food. And there's enough data to show that even people that want organic won't pay more for organic or properly done just because we're just brainwashed to say like, oh, I can save 25 cents or $2.50 on something. So that's one thing. And I think it's an interesting project on so many levels, but on one, the one I'm trying to wrap my head around is the customer sort of digesting the concept of the restaurant and what they're willing to pay as a threshold. So yes, you're publishing papers because this is arguably one of the most important restaurants to open up in America in ages.
And one of the things that we, this whole sort of environmental stuff that's going on, like one of the things that I truly, truly believe in is if you want people to change, you can't yell at them, you can't shame them, you can't lecture them, you can't be righteous about it. So part of our approach is we're gonna do it. And then we're gonna just lay it out there. And we're gonna be transparent about our failures too. Like we tried this, didn't work. Clearly it's not gonna, and we'll go on. And through that, just hey, listen, if you only want to do 15% of what we did, that's fine. It's better than nothing.
How,
But what we don't want to do is lecture people and say, look at how righteous we are. You should be doing the same thing because I think that's the wrong approach, and I think that's a lot of the resistance that you get from people because no one wants to go to a restaurant and be lectured at.
can I ask
And so
about
the last thing we want to do is to
the
do that.
lecturing aspect, not to the customer, but to your purveyors, right? So
Yep.
you're asking people that deliver food and send you food and produce food to package it in a way that probably they don't do normally. So
Mhm.
how do you do that when you're receiving
So
product?
first, I'll give you one small example. Spice tubs, right? The 1 pound spice tubs. They all come in plastic, right? Paprika and coriander, and then we collect them by the pallet full. And we call the spice. We're like, "Do you want them back?" They're like, "No, just throw them away." So we throw them away. So we went to every spice company and said, "Hey, if I buy tins and muslin bags, and I'll send them back to you when they're done, and you refill them. Would you do it? And everyone said no. Finally, we found a couple of companies that said yes, we'll do it. Small companies, right? And so they're paying a slightly higher price for it. But I said, fine, we'll work with you. We'll do it. And then I said, listen, if you're going to work with us on this, I'm going to blow you up on social media. We're going to feature you on our website. We're going to just add, put this on a loudspeaker. Maybe you get a couple of more restaurant accounts because of this. Maybe someone does this thing in Oakland and Detroit and Austin and whatnot. Maybe in 5 years, the big spice companies lose 2% market share. I guarantee you they'll change at that point. So my thing is, you don't do it. You don't tell corporations what to do because they'll never do that.
Mhm.
What you do is you figure out how to hurt them in the wallet. And if you can figure out a system where I'm not going to be the one that creates the system, I'm just going to figure out the blueprint and see if other people want to follow it. If 100 other restaurants start doing it, they'll feel it in the wallet, and then that's when they'll change. So that's kind of the impetus behind what.
So to Dave's point, I'll work my way to a question here, but to Dave's point, our friend, I think you know him too. Our friend Anthony Mint had a restaurant in San Francisco called The Perennial, which was a very, very mission driven, like the core fundamental idea was that it's going to be the most sustainable restaurant in the entire world. It was driven entirely by this mission, and ultimately it failed. Ultimately, not enough people came to eat this restaurant. And I used to say to Anthony all the time, like, Anthony's a great cook, but I was like, when people are choosing what restaurant they want to go for dinner, people say like, oh, I feel like Thai, or I feel like Chinese, or I feel like Mexican. Nobody says like, I feel like sustainable food. So like, Anthony, if you want this to succeed, pick a cuisine, think about the diner experience first, and the rest has to follow. To your point of not being like lecturing people, it's got to be, I was like, Anthony, make the most delicious Burmese food you can imagine and do it according to all of the principles you have, but lead with like what is delicious first and what's like going to be a great customer experience, and then let them find the rest on their own. It's really, really, really hard. So like, my question to you is, what is the food at Shia? What are people coming for?
It's going to be a Korean tasting menu. Okay. So it'll be, the stuff that I'm kind of on this weird Korean journey about. So we're importing a few items from Korea, and just figuring out what that, in this, I study a lot of immigrant food, and I love getting obsessed over the progress of immigrant food. And I have this thing, like, so whenever a food comes to America, whether it's Korean or Thai or Italian or Armenian, it comes in. The first generation you see is mom and pop stores, right? It's people, they have no other way to make income, so they do what they do, and that's how they make money. They put their kids through college, and then the second iteration of it is, it becomes, for lack of a better word, fusion, right? So you get a bulgogi taco, you get kimchi on a hot dog, you get all this cross-cultural thing happening with food. And then, to me, there is this third iteration that happens after that, and you're seeing it in some of the restaurants in New York with the tasting menus, with the Korean tasting menus, where you're seeing, like, I don't know, there becomes a somewhat of a purity, like a distillation of everything. And it's like, some of it's cross-meshing culture, some of it's authentic, like mom and pop, but some of it's modern and innovative, and it becomes this sort of like, all the chaff gets kind of filtered out, and you get to the core of something. And the question being, like, what's Korean food in America going to be for the next 20 years? Like, is it bulgogi tacos, or is there another thing after that, which is more pure to Korean, but it's not your grandma's, naengmyeon and kalbi. So I don't know. That's the question in my head. So we're doing that as the cuisine. And yeah, of course I agree with you 100%. Like, I want people to come just because the food's good.
Mm-hmm.
A byproduct is, if you come and you want, like, we will tell you all about our mission, but only if you ask. Like, we're not here to shove it in your face and shove it down your throat. But if you're curious, yeah, we'll go down the rabbit hole.
Put that salad on the menu. Fill that restaurant right up. That persimmon salad. Come on now.
Find out where to get mugunji in America.
Ed, before we let you go, you have a new book out.
Yeah.
And it is called Bourbon Land. Quick plug for that. What can people expect?
It's kind of, for those of you that don't know me, I'm a Korean kid from New York, but I've lived 20 years in Louisville, Kentucky. And I've been drinking, cooking, and doing everything with bourbon for the past 20 years. And so it's everything about, it's just my opinionated take on bourbon, and it's all recipes made with bourbon. There's a lot of bourbon cookbooks out there, but it's all like, Joe's barbecue, add some Jack Daniels and, fry up your ribs. Or it's like, bourbon dessert chocolate.
Hey, Ed, let's just call a spade here. They all suck. Okay. If you have that bourbon cookbook that Ed's talking about, these are books you can burn.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
I joke, but not really.
No.
Burn your
I just wanted to show that bourbon is an ingredient. It's diverse. You can listen. I put bourbon in Asian food. It's fantastic. But it's also kind of my love letter to Kentucky. I mean, I found myself, from New York originally, but found myself like falling in love with Kentucky and got married there, had a kid there, just had a fucking incredible ride. And so as bourbon becomes more popular and it becomes like global, I just don't want people to forget that it's, born, bred, made, and beloved in Kentucky.
It's been 20 years since you moved to Kentucky. I remember like people like, Ed moved to Kentucky. I was like, what? He did a what? Where? And then I saw how happy you were.
Redneck.
You were so happy. You were genuinely happy. And I'm glad that I'm glad the great state of Kentucky has welcomed you with open arms, because you are a great value add to that place. And I remember one of those things you cooked for me with bourbon. You made soy butter bourbon on grilled oysters.
Oh yeah. Damn, that's good memory.
This guy does not forget a dish.
A lot of that bourbon didn't hit the oysters, but hit my mouth.
That was with Julian Van Winkle.
That was the early days of Pappy Van Winkle before everything changed.
This must have been a good hang.
Super drunk. And those are the days, man. Julian, before he sold, before it was even popular. I haven't even told Bourdain about it yet. This was like a niche thing. Ed cooked for all of us. It was one of the more memorable meals I've had. And again, just remembering the big shit-eating grin on Ed's face, just being there in Kentucky. I'll never forget that. So great seeing you. You guys should all watch Culinary Class Wars and watch Ed at a disadvantage with jet lag, not having any home, to help him out.
Defying the odds.
Fucking smoking people. Okay? If you want to see literally somebody rising like a phoenix
from the ashes of all those burned bourbon cookbooks.
Yeah. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you, guys.